Yep, Facebook hates me.
Facebook hates all of us right now.
Yeah. All right, but we are live on YouTube, so that's good.
Hello, YouTube.
All right, we are back for another episode of Triggered. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My good friend Marcus is here. We've got some good, deep discussion we're going to talk about. It's some good stuff, guys. If you're just tuning in and listening to us later, you can still comment. We can still go back and chat with you. Mr. Mark Z still hates me for the Facebook because I said cut his head off because of a friend's post for an Adam Sandler movie. So, whatever it is. I can't hate. So yeah, share, like, subscribe. You guys already know what to do. You've done this before. Yeah. So Marcus, let's top this off, man. Let's go into like where you're from, how we connected, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, like I said, my name's Marcus, good friend of Tony here. We both served at Fort Drum, 10th Mountain Light Infantry Division. I was a 92 Golf. If you know anything about Fort Drum, if you're watching this, you know anything about Fort Drum, it's an experience. Currently living in Columbus, Ohio, just living the dream right now. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. What are you doing right now for work?
Right now, I'm a certified diesel technician. I work with various counterparts around the capital of Columbus. I'm also contracted through different tow groups, different mechanic fields. So really, it's just getting out here teaching young people about the trade, trying to get more young people into the trade, honestly.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And before the Army, I was I had a short stint, probably about a year or so, of doing diesel mechanics and, basically like a PMCS, level 20 stuff, like oil changes, tire changes,
Right.
air brakes, all that fun stuff. And it really is a great trade. And there's a lot of money in the diesel mechanics side. I mean,
A lot.
it's very untouched still. So
Yeah.
it's really good stuff, man. Good stuff. So I have you on because I want to talk about, so I had this mini series on alternative medicine. And alternative medicine is great. And we talked about in the past episodes, the spiritual side, the nutrition and fitness, massage therapy and how that works, acupuncture, all these different things. But one thing that we never touched on that I think more people need to touch on is the financial side, because finances really affect how you feel and how, if you get, let's say, if someone hands you a $5,000 check today, all of a sudden that serotonin drops. You're going to get happier and all this stuff.
Right.
Money does make people happy. Money does cure a lot of situations. As much as we say money isn't everything, and it's not, it's still something. You have to have money to do good. I mean, that's just basic common sense now, I'd say, especially in the health field. But let's talk about finances, and I guess we'll just jump right into it. From day one for soldiers, which I kind of laugh. I'm thinking about now when they hand you that Eagle card and say, "Okay, here's your first $300 that you can spend at the PX," right? Like you can feel the eyes already.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the drill sergeants that coincidentally I'm friends with now are like, yeah, you fuckers, you took all those razors, you tried, you can see them smacking the soaps and you can't have this, you can't have that,
Correct.
Let's start right from there, right from like reception to basic training on finances and what they taught us or lack of in the finance world.
So yeah, like I said, joining the military, uh, we both know, everybody's heard this saying a million times. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. You're gonna have ups, you're gonna have downs. Some people have terrible experience. Some people have good experiences. So joining the military can be a lot. And it's not, and a lot of times people don't think about finances when they join the military. That's not something they're very big on. They're more so focused on their career. Cool, can I get promoted? How well is basic going to be? You talk to a lot of people that are maybe in the process of going through MEPS or whatever it is, talking to their recruiter. One of the questions you always hear, cool, how hard is basic? You hear it every time. What is it going to be like? Are the drill sergeants going to scream at me? Am I allowed to have my phone? But I've never heard somebody entering the military, okay, well, how much am I going to make? What benefits will I get?
Which is really funny because like you go to a job interview and like one of the things, although you might not ask, in the back of your mind is how much are you going to make and what are the benefits?
Right. What's my first check going to be? Tell me that.
Right.
But you never hear this question asked. from a lot of newer people going into MEPS. And now that I think about it, when I joined it, I didn't even think about it at all, really. So, so
Yeah.
it's just one of those things you kind of like put in the back of your head. Maybe it's a nerve thing, maybe it's anxiety. Um, but I do believe there's a lot of things that drill sergeants, I will, if you have the right drill sergeants, and this just comes down to the leader role. If you have the right drilling sergeants that are actually training soldiers, they're going to warn their soldiers about the things that are out there. My
Yeah.
drill sergeant, loved him to death, Drill Sergeant Liverman. To this day, he's probably like my turn to for advice. He used to always tell us, "Hey, don't get married." He said, "Don't get married out of basic," and he used to warn us about the Eagle card. Hey, they're going to come to you about Eagle card. No, it's your money. You earned it. Don't give it to nobody.
Yep.
But a few things they don't tell you about, which I believe is really strong. I think a lot of newer soldiers that are just going to MEPS and into the end processing portion of basic, they don't tell you about what are your expenses on your downtime. What are you out here doing? um, we all see the memes. We all know the memes. If we see a Dodge Challenger from Army pages or Army what the fuck, we're instantly like 17%, 25% APR. Like we instantly
Yep.
think that
Reverse
because
loans, like,
right, it's just a roll. It's just a ball that just keeps happening.
yep.
Um, which isn't bad because that's bringing awareness to the community that hey, there are soldiers that do fall for this trap of signing for things they really wanted without looking at the repercussions financially. And I don't think that's really preached a lot or talked about a lot going through basic. Yes, you're a soldier first. That's their whole goal. They're trying to make you a soldier, get you out there, get you ready for what's to lie ahead. But I do think it needs to be sat down like, hey, even though you're a soldier, you're still a human at the end of the day. Make sure
Yeah.
this is right. Make sure your family's right. Make sure your finances are right. What's your health looking like? So I do think that's something that really needs to be touched on a lot more. And it is scary.
Yeah.
And I think even going through AIT, there wasn't really much financial advice going
Mhm.
through AIT as well. So you
Yeah.
just never know when you might run into that actual leader that's going to sit down and tell you, hey, this is the best thing to do. This is how you build your credit score. This is the best thing to do. If you want to get a car, okay, let me come with you. Let me tell you what to watch out for. Get gap insurance. Like, there's so many things.
Bro, that gap insurance, like, I know we tease about it all the time in Fort Drum, but that shit is real.
It saves your
Real.
life. It saves your life. And
Get
I
it.
explain this to people all. Get if you're listening, get gap insurance. Okay. I don't care if it's an extra
It's worth
35
it.
bucks a month. Get it, especially if you're a drum and you're not familiar with driving on ice. I'm telling you right now, get
Yep.
gap insurance. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's funny. I actually just saw about one of our soldiers. I won't put his name out there, obviously, but he had I want to say it was an Impreza STI. Starts doing stupid stuff on it, wrecks it. A week and a half later, rolls up with a Ford Focus STI. I'm like, bro. He's like, insurance was good. Got the gap. I'm like,
gap insurance is
what are
like your
you
ace
doing,
card.
dude?
It's your ace card and it saves you.
It really does.
And it's surprised not just even like military. There's people out here that's never, but and I think, and yes, this goes back to my topic. There are people that prey on new soldiers. They prey on because they know these new soldiers are getting out of basic, they're getting out of AT. They don't know this. They get to their first duty station, they're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, they're ready to get out there, get it done, get this new stuff. I want a charger, I want a challenger, I want all the shoes I can get, and they get preyed upon. So you have these car dealerships, they don't tell them about gap insurance.
No.
Or if they do, they downplay it very much. Like, oh, you don't really need that because,
That's your
it's just a
expensive.
waste
Yeah.
of money. It's only like 35 bucks a month. Don't worry about it. But they don't tell you, like, hey, you're at Fort Drum. If you're not used to driving here, you're going to go down that black ice hill and you're going to hit a pole. And now
Yeah.
you're going to be stuck with debt. So I think that it's
Yeah.
something that soldiers get preyed on a lot. And it is sad, honestly. I really think it's sad.
It
That's
is.
one thing I do hate the most. Like I said, Gap saved me big time. Being at drum, I think I just got it was a Pontiac G6 financed. I loved it. Dark, gray leather seats.
It was
Nice. And I
sexy.
was there. Right. It was just nice. It was just my car, you know. And on the way to Walmart,
Yep.
coming down the hill, and guess what? Black ice, and now I can't stop, and I hit a truck right at, the stop light, which thankfully nobody
Yep.
was hurt. Insurance took care of him, and the dealership, they found out that I was in an accident, of course, and they're like, "Oh, well, we need the car back. What's going to go on?" And I was like, "Well, I have gap insurance, so that kind of takes cares of that." So like
And you're like,
3 weeks
nope.
later, yeah, like my hands were like, all right, cool, no problem. So 3 weeks later, it was 3 weeks later, next I had a Chevy.
Nice.
And,
Yeah,
and I
well,
did it
that's the
without
thing.
debt too.
Yeah, and it's crazy. We talk about this because like this stuff is real stuff that a lot of people don't realize is out there. And like we were saying before, offline, like education of your finances is so important. And just like you were saying, piggybacking off that in AIT, my sergeant was awesome. Like he taught us a lot of good stuff. And finances, he kind of said the same stuff like, don't get married. And it was funny because he said too, don't if your checking account is in your mom's name or your mom or dad have access to that checking account, get rid of that because your mom's gonna
Right,
steal everything you have. And I
right.
was kind of laughing because like at the time, like I joined the military a little late in life. I was like 30. So
Hmm.
AIT rolls around, I was like 31, almost like 31 and a half. These kids were coming straight out 17, 18, never had a checking account. And I'm getting texts like once I get to Fort Drum, like, hey, bro, can I borrow $20? My mom took like that whole $700-800 I had. I'm like, dude, sorry. Like,
Right, right.
it's
It,
sad,
it's
but
it's it's sad. It's sad, but I don't think the reality of it doesn't dawn on a lot. Which you're grateful because you do run into soldiers who have joined the military. I joined the army when I was 21, so
yep.
I already had a job previously. I'm used to having to check. I'm used to this. Um, but you're right. You have a lot of soldiers that are fresh out of high school, and they never had a job before. They never had a checking account before. So whenever they get out of basic, they see $3,000 in their account. They're like, oh, like it's
Yeah.
like, oh my god, and the first and the 15th I get paid. Like, oh, it kind of it takes a hold of them, and
Yeah.
that's where the irrational decisions start coming in,
Yeah.
and I think that is very dangerous. So I do think there needs to be some kind of middle ground to where we these new soldiers are learning. I don't want the army shouldn't be an experience financially for
Right.
new soldiers or young people, millennials, whatever. It shouldn't be a financial experience or a financial headache for them to where it's like, oh my god, I ruined my life when I was in the army. I spent all this money, my credit score
We
and da
should
da da
teach
da.
them.
Right, and
Yeah.
we should teach them. We should be reaching out more and teaching them,
Yep.
and I think that would go a long way to ending this cycle of, hey, you got 30 APR on your Silverado.
Yeah.
You
That you're
know?
paying 700 a month for with
Right, right,
$200 down.
right. Especially in today's age with inflation being how it is. Inflation is ridiculous. I think
That's
last time I checked, I believe it was the Consumer Report. They said the average car note price has like skyrocketed up to 30%, like 30% higher than 2018, if I'm correct. So the
insane.
average car note payment is roughly $520. So there are people out here that are paying approximately $520 a month on their car note, and that
It's
is
wild.
terrifying. So,
Yeah. I mean, if you think about like as in the world of investments, let's say just say a mortgage, an average mortgage in the United States. I know it depends on the zip code and all that stuff,
right,
but like you could take, I say comfortably 750 to 1,000 for a mortgage, and that's an investment. You're actually going to make money
correct,
down the road. If you're
right,
taking that to a car, you're adding mileage, you're adding repairs,
right,
you're
right,
losing that money each month. Like
right.
that's just crazy to me.
It
So
shouldn't be a strain.
no, I
Right,
agree. I mean, I think comfortably $300 a month, maybe 400, depending on where your credit's sitting, is
right,
a comfortable for soldiers right now, at least right now, because
right,
that's all crazy. Depending on what branch you are and stuff, should be like you can get a good car for that price, reliable, and still be able to afford your food and
right.
insurance. And
Absolutely
well,
agree.
gas is kind of crazy now too, but Right now.
That's just gas. What are
That's
you
just
going to do about
gasoline.
it? It's just gas.
Yeah.
um,
Um,
when I talk to people about cars, everybody tells me, because I'm a big car guy.
yeah.
Like I love BMW. That is like my bread and butter right there.
Cars are beautiful.
Right. And I explained to a lot of people that don't know, there's a lot of people that don't know about cars. They're like, hey, can you come with me to look at this car? And,
Right.
they're like, oh, well, I want this Subaru over there. I want this Impreza or so on and so forth. And I tell them, like, look, if you're going to be paying $300 a month for the next 2 years for this car, first of all, ask yourself, is this thing reliable?
Oh,
Am I going to have this car long enough?
right.
And
No,
that's the
absolutely.
biggest thing.
Yeah, man. Um, so let's get into some of the clutches that new privates have. If you can discuss that a little bit, like we are saying, tattoo shops, car dealerships. What else was there? Like you
Uh,
said, shoes. I mean, you go to a Patriot or one of those. You
yes.
know,
There's a lot of things to discuss when it comes to new privates. Um, one thing I witnessed firsthand. For example, like I said, if you've been at Fort Drum, you kind of know where I'm about to go with this. First thing you see, like outside the main gate, is literally a tattoo parlor. Like I'm not making that up. That's like one of the first things you see. So you do have a lot of companies that they're going to prey on the idea that so these soldiers are, like say, getting out of basic and they know that they're financially secure. And with soldiers being financially secure comes that cool. They know they're financially secure. They're going to be a bit more reckless with spending. So they might not have no problem signing for this car that's, 18-20% APR. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
and they get excited and think, "I have a car. I have something," because
right,
that might be
right.
the first time they have anything in life.
Right. I mean, and that's just the way of the world. It's not like when our great grandparents, it's like, yeah, they probably had a car when they were 16, in a
Yeah.
house. So a lot of these soldiers, it's this feeling of freedom. It's this feeling of I'm out here, I'm getting stuff in my name, I'm out here making financial movements. But I think it's the lack of financial knowledge. I tell everybody the biggest thing you can do with finance is there's a lot of people, they get money, they have one, two, three streams of income, but they're never paying attention to what's happening to their income, what's happening to your money, what's going on. And I think that is the biggest thing that a lot of new soldiers, they don't know.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I know where my money's coming from. It's coming from the TOJ or DOD, and I know where this is coming from. But are you invested? Okay, cool. I'm a specialist. I'm making, what is it, 900 ish, the first and the 15th. Like,
Yeah, I
what are
say
you
maybe
doing?
18 a month, if
Yeah,
that.
yeah, like, yeah, something like that, like something like ridiculous. But
Yeah.
but what are you doing with that money? It wasn't until later in my army career, when I was just about to exit, where I had NCOs and officers come to me and they're like, "Oh yeah, the army has like IRAs, the army has like these," and it's like in my eyes, I was like, where was this like 2 years ago? Like
Day
nobody told
zero.
me this, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody told me this. I would have been investing. Um, so nobody thinks about that, especially when you're financially secure, like you are in the army. It's the same thing with credit, and I preach that to the fullest. Um, if you're joining the military, if you're watching and you think about joining the military, this is probably my biggest advice. While you're in, if you're still young, more than likely. So you haven't really established credit. So focus on establishing your credit,
Yeah.
building your credit, because you don't know what you're going to be doing when you get out. None of us really know, honestly.
No.
I got out in 2019, December of 2019, and had a job lined up. Everything's gravy. I'm ready to go, and COVID hit. So
Yeah.
you just never know.
Bro, I was right. It's so funny you say that because 2020 officially was my last. January 31st, 2020 was my first day as a civilian, but I was working medically discharged all that, so I was able to
Right,
work on my process out. I was working at Bradley's doing business to business online sales. So I'm like, oh, this is great. And then, like you said, COVID hit, and you're like, okay, what do I do?
right,
So I ended up having some issues where I was at, came back home, and like what I'm doing now, I would have, if you told me in 2017, 2018, hey, you're going to run a podcast, you're going to be doing this kind of digital sales, you're going to be doing this, I'd be like, no, I was a firefighter EMT. you know, working on trucks on the side. You know, like I'm not
Right.
doing that. No way. And like you said, bro, you don't know, especially
You
soldier.
never. Right.
You
Especially a
can
lot of
try to
the
set it up.
soldiers.
But yeah.
I think what a lot of, because when you go to basic, I think a lot of soldiers, they have it in their head. You're motivated. You're in basic. You're motivated. This is, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. Here's the uniform. I'm out here at PT. I'm killing it. I'm learning what it's like to be a soldier. I'm learning the Army values. I'm learning all this stuff. It's like I'm motivated. And a lot of us get in our head like, dude, I'm going to do 20 years. I'm going to retire. And I mean, like, you hear this from
Yeah.
so many. I think even I was like that at one point. Like,
I
yeah, I'm
was
going to do
definitely.
20 years until you get down the road in your career and you're like, maybe. So you
I don't know.
never
That last
know.
field was a little cold. I think I might, PCS next week.
Right. I was a little bit high speed right back there. So let me just slow down and pump the brakes real quick. So a lot of new soldiers, they don't realize that they don't. So whenever they get to their first duty station, they don't take into consideration that, cool, maybe I might not. How am I going to feel? I can't make decisions based on now, because how am I going to feel in a year? How am I going to feel in 2 years, 5 years, so on and so forth. Um, and I think that's a very scary thing for a lot of new soldiers to think about. It is a scary thing for anybody to think about. Thinking
Yeah.
about financially the future, that's terrifying, because we are in uncertain times. COVID hit, and that caught not just military, not just veterans off guard. That caught everybody off guard.
The
People
whole
lost their
world.
businesses shut down, and it just
Yeah.
threw everybody off guard. So
The market
it
went
really
crazy.
the market, which they're still kind of trying to recover from that.
Yep.
Um, so
And some
I
did
think,
really well and some did really bad. Like I know
right,
the podcast took off like crazy. I have a few friends who went and started their own businesses and they went really well. But then I had a lot of friends who had like great businesses and they literally just crashed and they had to shut up
right,
because of
mhm,
what their industry was.
right.
It's tough.
They actually said that right now the average millennial income, as of 2022, the average millennial income as of 2022 is roughly $48,000 a year. That is the
Mhm.
average. Now, pre-COVID, and and this is the crazy part, pre-COVID, per Consumer Report and Stanford studies, that in June of 2019, the average millennial income before COVID was $71,000 a year. That's a
That's
thirty
30 grand
thousand
quick.
dollar. That's a 30K difference just between COVID, and I'm sure most of those people that were making that average, if you told them that, hey, in the next year or in the next few months, your income's gonna, you might lose your job, they'd look at you like, are you are you crazy? Have you not
Exactly.
seen the economy? We're booming, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's
nobody took
wild,
that.
man. And we gotta think about it too, like with the finances is like right now we're building back up. We're doing okay for what our times are. A lot
Right.
of the trades are doing well. The housing market, I mean, I have a good friend, quite a few good friends who are realtors, and they're selling left and right. Like it's moving. I think personally, and I don't know the future of the economy like that. I'm not that good yet, but I foresee it like building up real quick and then spiking down low, hitting a trough,
Right.
and then doing a nice slow climb for the next 20 years.
Right. There's a lot of professionals. There's a lot of professionals, accountants, and so on. I've been following a lot of them, just listening to a lot of their opinions about what's been going on, and a lot of them believe that yes, things are time. We're dealing with inflation, but they believe after this inflation breaks here pretty soon, they actually believe that it'll be relatively soon, that our economy is going to go back to pre-COVID. It's going to skyrocket,
I
and
agree.
we're going to see a big return. So a lot of people,
Yeah.
and they believe it's going to be a steady. They predict it to be 5 to 10 years of just growth. Um, so now comes the question that I get asked a lot. Well, what about investment? And that's the question
That's
you
good.
hear a lot since COVID. When COVID hit, so many people started realizing that, okay, the stock market crash. We started hearing words like stock market, stocks, bonds. And I think the biggest
Bitcoin.
story, yeah, Bitcoin, big digital currency. Like, a lot of people didn't really pay attention to investing until COVID hit, when a lot of these companies, like you said, that weren't making it big, they started skyrocketing. You had
Yeah.
3M, they are sitting on boats loads of cash right now just
Yeah.
because of mask alone.
Yeah.
So
Johnson and Johnson, even though
Johnson
they
and
got sued,
Johnson,
they're still
right.
huge, huge.
So a lot of people, so when it comes to investing, I tell a lot of people, I'm like, there's a lot of examples you can follow, but investing is never 100%. And we all know that investing
Absolutely.
in stocks, bonds, and it's the same thing for news soldiers. Um, if you're going to invest in something, yes, you want to have some kind of guarantee. Hey, am I at least going to get my money back that I put into this, or will I get more?
Yeah.
And that's where this whole, hey, the army has an IRA. And then, like I said, if I knew about that before, it's like,
Yeah.
I would have done
Yeah.
it long ago. Especially if I know, hey, if I don't get a better return, I'm at least going to get what I put in out. Right now, the average Roth IRA return is between 7 and 10%, and that's not bad.
That's not
But it
bad.
could be better. But
It will be. But for
right.
right now, on the whole global side of it, that's not bad because usually I think the average is like 4 to 7, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's normally it's usually sits between, I think it's like 4.3 to like 6.1,
Okay.
around that area. So the fact that the Roth IRAs are growing, that's a good thing. That's a good sign. And that's something that, like I said, if you're young, get started on that while you're young. So guess what? Whenever you're in your 50s and you have a family, you have a mortgage, and you're ready to retire, or you want to retire early, that's something that is more than feasible. Um,
Absolutely.
and one of the funniest stories I remember during COVID, I think they're making a movie about it, was the GameStop story
Mm.
with Robin Hood and how they kind of screwed over the hedge fund. Hedge fund. They're
Yeah.
actually making a movie about that.
I would love to see that when that comes out because I love that stuff, man.
I,
Like
I want to
learning
see
this
it
stuff
so
is
bad,
amazing.
right? I plan to see that so bad. But and everybody was kind of shocked because they're like, people are investing during COVID. Like, where are they getting this extra money? What's going on? And it brings me something to what Warren Buffett said. He said the people that have gotten rich off of stocks, the people who have gotten rich off the stock market, they didn't get rich off the stock market during times of growth. They didn't get rich off the stock market during times
Yes.
when the economy was okay. They got rich off the stock market during times of hardship.
And crashes. Yeah,
Right.
Eric Thomas said exactly that. He said, my stuff isn't out there for the people to feel the best at their day and feeling so great and everything's good. He goes, when I came in, everyone was hitting low. It was a bad time. Like 9/11, stock market crashes. That's when I started putting
Right.
stuff out every single day. And now look at, I mean, he literally sat in there. I'm sure you've heard this interview thousands of times. He sat in an interview walking in there just like us, jeans and a nice shirt, walked in there. Well, I mean, our shirts now, but regular pair of kicks and a 59 on.
Right.
And he's like, I'm sitting next to Warren Buffett chatting about investments and hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. When nobody in the area in Detroit had money. And
Right.
in his mind, he was like, well, if nobody can invest, why are we going to invest in this city? But Warren Buffett had that next level chess mind where he's like, they can't invest in it now, but if we invest in a city, then they can invest into us. And it was just like, damn, like it's a chess game.
And that's my bit when it comes to investing in the stock market, because it's something that I'm very avid about. I pay attention to stocks. Like, I invest myself as much as I can when I can and when the time is right.
Yeah.
But one thing I tell a lot of people, for first time investors and for people that aren't really knowledgeable about it, the biggest thing I tell people is this: if you spend money when people aren't willing to spend money, you're going to make money when people aren't making money. So if I see, hey, people aren't buying stocks in Delta Airline during COVID because who's flying?
Right.
you
That's
know,
the best time.
but right now, COVID's kind of over. People are actually traveling. People are flying. I bet those same people are probably getting some nice dividend checks every quarter. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm gonna stop the audio recording, redo it so that we can do a second segment. And we'll just keep rolling with this, man. I love
okay,
this.
no problem.
And it's that easy. Too easy, man. Yeah, I think like it's so wild you said these names because like that is literally what like my mind was back when COVID hit. I was like, what is Warren Buffett doing right now? What is Bill Gates, Elon Musk, like all these big names we hear about? How are they? And I'm like, they're good. Like I'm not worried about their financials because it doesn't affect me. But what influence are they going to put on us that we can invest into?
Right.
Like SpaceX, like the pipeline, like all these huge things that they're involved with. and it's like right now STEM. I'm sure you've heard that, like the STEM programs in
Yes,
school. If
yes.
you invested into them like 4 or 5 years ago, right now is like major return. And I still feel right now is a good time to invest in that because that's where everything's going.
Because it's still in it. It's still STEM is still in its infancy. So I
Yeah,
do see STEM going a long way, and I think investing in it now is not a bad idea actually at all.
yeah,
Uh, and it's something I explain to a lot of people. Like I said, a lot of people just don't know about investing. They don't know how the stock market works. They don't know how. Biggest thing is their investment portfolio. A lot of people don't know these words. You say that, they're like, "What is that?"
it's a whole
And
nother language.
it's a whole nother language. So I explain to people that when it comes to finances, when it comes to making money, when it comes to just money in general, you have to understand that money is a different language. And when it
Mm.
comes to that language, it's all about knowledge. And it's not, you don't have to be smart to do this. I went public education, like
Same.
but in Columbus, not the best. But it's kind of one of those things where it just, are you going to hunt down the answers you're looking for? Are you going to hunt down, cool, if I want to invest, am I going to dedicate this time to say, all right, this company has a return around this time of year? Christmas time comes. This is when Mercedes, they start debuting their Christmas commercials with Mariah Carey. Let's see what goes on.
Exactly.
you know,
And that's it. And if you follow, I think if you follow like marketing and finances together, you will see those trends. Like you said, Mercedes does not like you go to a let's say a Bugatti dealership or Lamborghini, they're not out there spending money on ads. They're like, okay, if you have the money, you're gonna come see us.
right.
Pretty much like Mercedes and even Beamer, like they have ads, but they're not pushing it like Toyota, Honda, Ford all year round. They have their specific times where they push it because they know that's the highest time they're gonna get their money.
They have their specific times, and they also have their specific crowds as well.
The
Because
demographics.
very rarely do you see, you go to you see basketball games on TV, and they're like, oh, this game's sponsored by Kia. So you're in your mind, you're like, oh, Kia must be doing good. Well, if you didn't do your research, you would think like, oh, Kia must be doing good. Well, Kia is actually about to get hit with a civil lawsuit because of
Yep.
the theft that's been going on with their vehicles, and now they're catching on fire. So now you're
Yeah.
going to invest in a company you didn't do your research on, and you're probably going to get a loss on that, a loss on your return. So that's scary.
And
Um,
when you roll it down the hill, as we're talking up here now, that new private who's buying that 30% APR on that new Kia, who maybe in a year is going to get closed up, now they can't go to a mechanic because they don't have parts. They can't go to, their service or their warranty is literally gone now.
Correct. Or just the maintenance on it is going to go up.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of these. It's scary. Like I said, as somebody that's in the mechanical field, that's what a lot of these big name dealerships, big name car manufacturers, they're doing. They're trying to make it to where, hey, if you want to get your car fixed, you have to come to us.
Mhm.
Mercedes, they're notorious for that. They're notorious for making their cars to where, hey, the only person that can fix your car is a Mercedes mechanic.
Yeah.
And
Certified.
Tesla came in the picture. They kind of changed everything with their electric vehicle, but they also mainstream that idea to where, hey, we're a car manufacturer. We want to make more money, because if this company goes down, at least we're going to make more money. You have to come to us to get your Tesla worked on. The
Yeah.
battery for a Tesla is expensive. That's a whole nother car just
Bro,
for a battery.
yeah. I thought that was a joke at first, right? Like I saw
It's
people
not.
posting it down. I'm like, 30,000 for a battery?
For a
What?
battery, it's roughly 30,000 for a battery. Yes,
What?
yes.
I'm cheap, man. Like I'm mechanically inclined. Like I'm not gonna say I'm a mechanic, but I'm a mechanic. I'll buy that 93 Dodge Ram down the road, do the
Right.
heads myself. Like,
I know if something's wrong, just pop the hood. I'll figure it out here in a minute.
yeah.
So it's
Like, yeah, you're
ridiculous.
right.
So I tell people, like, nobody can predict the future. Nobody can, and especially in the finance world, nobody can predict the future. However,
Especially now.
you should be prepared for anything that comes. And with that being said, it comes down to, what are your safety nets? Cool. It's good to invest. It's good that you're making money. Cool. Your income's going up. You're investing. But what's your safety net? At the end of the day, something bad happens, hospital bills, whatever. What is your safety net? What are you going to do? You
Yeah.
get in an accident, you didn't have car insurance. Let's say your deductible is 3,000. Do you have 3,000 to cover that?
Yeah.
So it comes down to safety net, and with a lot of veterans, especially veterans that recently got out of the military or out of service or whatever the case is, they get disability. This is the big one I talk to a lot of service members about. They get their disability, and yes, it is appropriate to look at your disability, whether it's 70%, 100%, whatever.
Yeah.
That should be looked at as a stream of income. That is true.
Yeah.
But it should also be looked at as a safety net, as another tool. It shouldn't be cool. I get my disability, spend, 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 spend,
The
spend.
main tool.
Right.
Yes.
That should not be your main tool. Spend, 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 spend. So I'm and it's something I spoke with you before. I said, hey, I'm a big advocate on having three streams of income. If you're a
Absolutely.
veteran, that's not hard because chances are whenever you get out and you have, a rating, there goes
Mhm.
one. And if you're working, there goes two. Now all you need is a side hustle. There goes your three streams right there. Um,
Yep.
but you need to dedicate one of those to be, okay, what's my safety net? What do I need to save up just in case this happens? What happens if natural disaster happens? I have to move in a hurry. Do I have money to do
Mhm.
that? If a family member gets sick, do I have that? Most people don't have 5K, even 5K saved up. Uh,
Yeah.
what is it? Consumer Report. They also reported that 91% of military families, active military families, have at least one credit card in their house, at least minimum one credit card.
Mhm.
41% of that 91% report they have more than 5,000 or more in debt on their credit card. So now,
Oh, it's a
kind of
dead
what do you
card.
do? Exactly. So now what do? You have $5,000 in debt, but you also need to save if you have kids, hospital visits, so on and so forth. So it is difficult. It's very difficult to manage. And I understand why people they say, hey, finances, it can be overwhelming. But
Oh yeah.
that's where the idea of three streams of income comes in.
Yeah.
And you should manage that.
And it's huge. And I know, like, for instance, like, especially being on military base, like, jumping for, like, we'll say the military wives or military spouses, I'll say, just to make it politically correct. So Facebook doesn't get even more madder at me.
Oh boy.
You know, more mad, whatever proper English,
Mhm.
is like a lot of those spouses don't work.
Mhm.
So it's like, even if you were to pick up even a small part-time job for an extra 200 a week, that extra 200 can help a lot.
It
You
can
know,
go a long way, correct?
even
Yeah.
if you're just at home babysitting other military spouses' kids, or doing a little side hustle here or there, that's huge. That's huge because, like you said, $5,000 in debt on average, like, that's a big debt to. And then all of a sudden now you're being deployed, and now you have almost zero. I mean, you have money going back home, but you still have to make sure your soldiers overseas taken care of. So, like,
Right. It's a
crazy.
lot. It is very stressful.
Yeah.
And it's something that like I have a cousin. He's joining the military, and he asked me a bunch of questions. He's like, "Oh, so what is Boom Basic gonna be like? What is AIT gonna be like? Oh, I think if my first duty station is here, what can I expect?" And all I could tell him, I'm like, "Look, I don't know. Okay, everybody's experience is different, but this is what I can tell you."
Right.
And I think I harped on him for like a week straight. Like, hey, when you get there, for the love of God, and I preached to him, and I preach this hard to him every time I talk to him. Do not marry the girl from high school that you think loves you.
But
Don't
she
do
don't
it.
love you.
Don't do it. I'm telling you right now, don't
Do
do
not
it.
marry
As
the
bad as you
stripper.
want to, just don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
don't that the stripper of the strip club does not love you. Okay, she just loves what you're throwing on the stage. Okay,
Yeah,
just
exactly,
don't
man.
do it. Um,
That's it.
so there's a lot of, like I said, the future is very uncertain. um, but it's always good to be prepared. It's always good to have some kind of safety net. It's not necessarily a guarantee that if something in the future does happen, hey, I'm ready for it, but it at least can give you an ease of mind. It can take a bit of that stress off your shoulders. Hey, if I got a flat tire right now and I don't have insurance, will I be able to call a tow truck, get it to the shop? Can I get it uh, repaired in that same day? Am I able to do that? If I'm able
Right.
to do that, maybe life isn't that bad right now.
Yeah, an extra 600 to 1,000, depending
Right.
on what it is. I mean, I was very fortunate today. I had to get two new tires, two new front tires, and alignment, and pay less than $400,
Ooh,
which isn't
nice.
bad. But
That's
I
actually a
also
steal.
I had my Jeep towed out tonight because the starter went on it. So I'm expecting tomorrow or the next day the bill's probably gonna be another 400 or 500. So there's 1,000 right off the rip. Yeah, I'm expecting.
It's like I said, it's very scary. It is very scary to think about. It's something I think about regularly. Hey, if this happens, am I going to be ready for it? And then you have to just think about basic, not just emergencies. And I'm not trying to scare anybody watching this, like, hey, focus on emergencies. I'm not. Go out here and live your life. I'm not going to tell you, hey, work 24/7 just to build up your safety net. Go out here
Right.
and live your life. We all want to go. We want to go out to eat sometimes. I want to go. I love pasta. I want to go out and have some pasta here and there, and it's okay to treat yourself, but you do have to be rational with your decisions. You don't have to. Do I have to go every night out to Olive Garden? Probably not. Probably not. you know,
When you're on Xbox or PlayStation, buy that game every time it comes out.
right,
$60, $100 a month.
right.
You know,
It's scary.
30 different subscriptions of everything.
Right. It is scary. And then when I tell people you actually mature and you sit back and you say, wow, I'm spending that much money on this. It's like, imagine what I could be saving. Imagine the money I could have saved. And you should never have it in your mind when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your income and what you bring. You should never have in your mind, I wish I would have knew this sooner. That is the last thought process you want to have when it comes to finances. Because if that's how you're thinking, well, your finances are probably pretty jacked up.
Yeah.
you know?
It's funny. It's funny you say it. Like you literally just brought a thought to my mind about every quarter. Me and my wife go through our income to debt ratio, and we
Right.
like. I'm weird. I love Excel. I love having stuff on paper or on screen to see, because when you actually see like what you're actually doing to where you want to be, it's the truth. The numbers are there.
Right.
So I would say that too. Like for soldiers or even civilians, if you're listening, do that debt ratio. See what you're actually bringing in and what you're at, and be real with yourself. No one else is looking at, but be real with yourself. How much you actually spending each month on? And I'm horrible at it. My monsters. I drink Monster like crazy. I mean, at least one or two a day. But that's an extra $6 a day, let's say, times 30 days, times how many months per year. Like that adds up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate I have the money to do that, but at the end of the day, like that extra money, I could stop drinking Monster, take that money I'm spending every day, put it in a little coffee can, and then invest that.
Right. And you're absolutely right. I'm the same way. Like I drink 2 Red Bulls every morning before I go to work. I need to have my Red Bull. Uh, but how you said that you keep everything on paper, you like visually seeing it. One thing I found out is like people, they are visual learners. People, if they see it, then it kind of has more of an impact on them. Like, wow, that's actually what I. But if I just sit back and tell you, oh, you're spending $7,000 a year on just Red Bull, they're gonna be like, all right, 7,000. But if you put it like in perspective, write it down, and it's like, hey, you make this much a year, you spend $7,000,
You only make
on Red
14.
Bull, right? Like if this is how much you make, that's when it kind of hits them like, oh, well, you're kind of right. Like I spent a bit too much. So I tell everybody, it's like if you ever want to know where you stand financial, hey, just for a month, keep track of, get all your receipts, everything you buy, get a receipt, hold on to those receipts, don't look at them, but get your receipts and hold on to them, put them in a little Ziploc bag, whatever. I did this before.
Ziploc
Yeah,
bag.
I've done this before, and it's like it opened my mind.
Yeah.
First thing I did, like I said, every time I went, even if I went out to eat, yeah, can I get a copy of receipt? Cool, that's going in my bag. At the end of the month, cool, I'm going through those receipts. Hey, this is how much I spent on food. This is how much I spent on gas. This is how much I did this. And then you run the numbers. Okay, well, how much did I make that month? Okay, well, I made this much. Okay, so
Green, black, or red. You
what?
got the option.
Right. It's like so now you have to, now you're kind of looking at it and you're looking at it on paper. Wow, I spent all this money this month. The numbers don't lie. Here are the receipts right here. And you look at what you brought in, you're looking at your pay stubs, you're looking at your income, and you're like, I'm spending a lot of money on going out to eat. I go out to eat every 2 days to Red Lobster, and I'm spending $40, every 2 days. That's costing me right there. Maybe we can do something about that. And when you do that, that influences, I believe that really influences, one, it influences your physical health, which is a good thing. But also it influences your mental health. You start making more rational, and you take your time on making certain financial decisions. How does this benefit me?
Yes.
Is this something that's going to be a long-term thing? And if it is this something I can afford?
Right. I mean, let's face it, and we'll throw it out there. New privates, let's say they make $1,000 a month. Let's just say that's being definitely generous.
Extremely generous, yeah.
You got and they're in the barracks, we'll say too, just to play it safe. In the barracks, their food, they go to DFAC every day. Let's say they're being food and go to DFAC every day. but they got, we'll say, 5 different subscriptions. They got their Xbox or a PlayStation subscription, maybe 1 or 2 games, but they have their car insurance, car payment. That $1,000 can be spent really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how quick things add up, even if it's $14 a month or $10 a month, how quick it adds up into something that could be ultimately like all your subscriptions that maybe instead of having Hulu, Netflix, Prime, uh, Disney Plus, I don't even know how many other kind, because there's so many now.
There's just so, oh my, it's just
Yeah,
crazy.
bring it down to 1 or 2.
Right. One of the biggest things I was taught younger, which I'm happy I was taught this a lot younger. I had a wise man, James. He told me, he was a financial advisor. He told me some of the most wisest information I ever got. He said, credit cards and debit cards are dangerous. And I said, why is that? He said, because yes, you have money on a card. You know that. So when you leave the house, you're like, let's say you leave the house, $600 on your card. You're going to work, you're going on about your day. You spend money at the gas station, you spend money for lunch, you do all this. You don't actually sit back and you cannot visually see your money leaving. And he said that's why cash is so important. You carry cash on you. You every time you go buy something, you're physically seeing your money leave your wallet. You're physically seeing that wallet get thinner and thinner. And then you start thinking to yourself, maybe I don't need to get this right now, you know?
Yeah,
So like I said,
absolutely.
it's a very visual thing. And it's the same thing, like you said, with new soldiers. They don't take in consideration, cool, I need Disney Plus, I need this subscription, I need that subscription. Oh yeah, but also it's around the 15th, it's about to be the weekend, I'm trying to go out, have fun. Like, there are
Yep.
times when it's okay just to be like, let me gotta just sit this one back,
I'm gonna chill inside, do my own thing.
Right, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
chill inside, read a book, whatever, play Xbox.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. And uh, one of the biggest things I've always tell, like I said, I preach to my cousin all the time. I'm like, hey, you're 20, you're going in at 20, you barely have any credit, you're just getting out of your mom's house, whatever. Whenever you get in the military, focus on building your credit, invest. And I preach to them all the time about the Army's retirement plan, or the Army's
yes.
IRA. Guess you could say the IRA,
SRP or
the,
whatever they
the
call it.
SRP, right? I preach
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that all the time. Like, hey, invest in that. If you plan on staying, if you plan on reenlisting, invest in that. And I preach that to just
yeah.
about every new soldier, like, invest in that. And when you do invest in that, make sure you're paying attention to what's happening to it. Just don't
Mhm.
invest and expect, oh, it'll be fine. It's over there.
Yeah.
I had a soldier who's still in the Army, a great NCO right now. He posted on Facebook, which is something I didn't even notice because, well, I'm not back in the Army. He said, oh, yes, make sure your soldiers know their SPR just got reset to 0%. And it's like, these people don't know their SPR just got
What?
reset to 0%. This is something you're investing in. You should
Invest
be
in that.
checking on this,
Yeah,
right?
check that out.
So so I was happy he posted that on Facebook, because I was like, there might be soldiers out there that don't know this. And then whenever they
Yeah.
go to, get their return, they're like, well, it should be more than this. Well, it turns out this year it got reset to 0, and you were supposed to do XYZ. So you should always pay attention to what you're investing in, what is your retirement doing? What is your income doing? All the money you make, you should be paying attention to. If I work 40 hours a week, I know how much I'm bringing home. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with my IRA. If I'm in this much money a year into my IRA, when it comes time to pull money out, I should know what's in there.
If it's a
And I
ten
should know
percent,
what's
five
going on.
percent, whatever it is, you gotta
Right,
know
whatever.
at
Um,
least
e-
approximately what you're supposed to be getting in return.
right. And we know that, and we know just about every year, the VA, they raise the percentage on their disability ratings. Like I said, I found out the news, posted it on Facebook. Hey, the
Mhm.
VA, they're increasing disability ratings 8.9%. And a lot
Which
of
is
people were like,
huge.
which is big. So far, that is the second largest jump we've had in the
Yeah.
past 30 years, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Uh, and there's a lot of people that they didn't know that. So now it's like, yes, even though that is a gain, you should still know where that's coming from. So when January 2023 hits, you get your, the first of the month comes, you get your disability, it hits your bank account, you're not going to be shocked, like, wait, why am I getting that much?
Right.
So it doesn't catch you off guard. And
Yeah,
I can't, like I tell everybody, I harp on every day. You should always check your finances, check what's going on with your money. That is your money. You should know what's going
absolutely. Let it work for you.
on. Right, correct, and let it work for you. Uh, and that's just a huge thing. So
Yeah, bro.
it's all up to the person. It just comes down to, hey, I want knowledge. I want to know what's going on and how can I get better. If my finances are a bit jacked up, what am I spending money on? What am I spending useless money on? Is it
What can
me
I fix
going
it?
out?
How can I do it?
Right. And if I want to keep up this lifestyle, if I want to keep doing what I'm doing, my finances messed up. Well, can I afford to do that? Is my income going to increase? If my income's not increasing, well, maybe I still shouldn't be doing this thing. you know.
That's one of the things, like you said too, which I absolutely love. You said credit cards and debit cards because it is a visual thing. And to piggyback on that, man, I don't know if you remember Captain Fig, fucking crazy dude,
Yeah.
awesome dude.
Yes.
That's yeah, and for the longest time, because I was in a little financial struggle and buying like we all do, he like fought me on getting an AER loan.
hmm
And he's like, listen, I do this for like, this is why I went to school for. A loan for you right now is bad. And I'm like, but I need this. He's like, no. So unfortunately, now I'm out. I can say this. Like, I went and started working on a farm while my knee was all messed up still and doing some side
Smart
work.
man.
Yeah, like doing some side work and realized, like, okay, I probably shouldn't do this. Ended up having a little harder time because of stuff back home, which is fine. And he's like, all right, I'll let you sign off on the loan. I got the loan. To this day, I'm out 2 years now, and my last payment actually, I think, is this month. But that's an extra 100 a month 2 years after I got out that I'm still
Right.
paying $100 a month. If I were to give anyone right now $100, they'd be like, oh, awesome, thanks. Like that's a huge amount for most people,
A
you
month,
know,
$100 a month. Yeah, that's $1,200 a year.
a year. And you can reinvest that 100 a month into something else to make you a lot more money. Like 100 a month is a lot more than most people invest each month.
$100 a month. I tell you, I explain to people, okay, cool. You spend 50, let's say you spend 50 bucks a month on, like you said, debt. You're paying off something, whatever. Well, what if you didn't have that? What would you do with the 50 bucks a month? Oh, well, I'd save that 50 bucks, or those 50 bucks will go in my gas tank, or it's
Yeah,
something along that border. But I tell people, okay, well, what if you invested that 50 bucks a month? What if you invested that 50 bucks a month for something in the future? Um, the coolest thing I found out working at the VA, I worked medical billing and coding at the VA, and like I said, there's a lot of things that a lot of veterans they don't know. They just don't, and it kind of hurts my heart that the Army, like, they have SFL TAP. The Navy Marines, they probably have a different variant of out processing and getting soldiers
right.
ready. The biggest problem I had after I got out and after working at the VA for a while, I realized that SFL TAP didn't do nothing for soldiers. It didn't do anything. It only thing SFL TAP really harped on was just, hey, do you know how to make a resume? Are you ready for a job interview? Do you understand your benefits? It's like, yes, these are good questions, but are you actually telling them what
Teaching
their benefits do, what's actually going to happen out there? And I didn't
an
realize
hour
that
class with a booklet like this that at the end, and they say, do you have any questions? You're like, I'm so brain dead. I don't know what just happened. I
because you
haven't
just sat
slept
there
in
for
3 years.
5 hours. You just sat there for 5 hours looking at a PowerPoint. It's like,
Right.
you know, so
That's so true, man.
it it, it,
I'm right
it, it
there with you.
didn't dawn on me. It's like I said, there's so many soldiers out here. They don't know where to look just for basic help. Like I said, here in Columbus, here in the state of Ohio, the state of Ohio is given a grant by the federal government every year specifically for the veterans, and
That's
that comes in the form of the Veterans Commission. The Veteran Commission, they help veterans with everything. Like, they're specifically for veterans. It could be finances. It could be, in fact, come to think about it, they helped me get my VA disability claim. And
that's
it was absolutely free. My initial VA disability claim, absolutely free. I just called them up and I'm like, hey, the VA, I'm scared of the VA because they're just telling me to fill out all this paperwork and I
yep.
don't know what to do, get medical records. And
Right.
the representative at the commission, he just told me, he said, hey, look, I'm gonna send you out some paperwork. All you got to do is sign your name, giving us consent to go get your medical records,
To go
and
in.
and just relax. And if we have any questions, we'll come to you, we'll call you, we'll contact you. And next thing you know, 5 months later, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you got 80%. Here you go. And the Veterans
Yeah.
Commission was like, and I asked the Veterans Commission, like, do I have to pay you guys anything? They're like, no, we're absolutely free. Like this is a state funded, this is a federal state funded that is given to us for the veterans. It's absolutely free.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of vets here in Ohio that don't know that. They don't know. They're like, oh, I need to get an attorney. I need to get a lawyer, but they're going to take 30% out of whatever I win. And I'm like, well, you could just go to the Veterans Commission.
Yeah.
They will help you. They're not going to ask you any questions. They're just going to call you when they have questions. What happened on this date? Cool. All right, we'll talk to you in 3 weeks. In the bye.
Yeah. Which is amazing because for stateside, triggers in a lot of different countries, a lot of different states. The number third state that is listening right now is Ohio. So any Ohio people listening, please listen to Marcus. Like you can
I could.
get
Ohio is
free.
so Ohio, and it's so great. Ohio is just so interesting. I have people, they tell me like, why would you go back to Ohio? Why would you go back to Ohio? Who would want to live in Ohio? I was like, first of all, I'm a vet. This goes beyond that.
Right.
I understand why most people would say, why would you go back to Ohio? But if you're a veteran and you're trying to live a little bit better, you're trying to be better off. Ohio is not a bad state for veterans. Like I said, there's a lot of programs here that assist veterans with whatever they need. There's no questions, there's none of that. And like I said, every state's different. I know Texas, their big thing, they give veterans land.
Yeah.
Literally, they give their veterans like acres of land. I didn't know that until I started working at the VA, and I ran into a veteran who came from Texas, and he told me that. He was like, yeah, Texas gave me like 4 acres of land or so on and so forth. And I'm like, wait, they just gave you land? He was like, well, yeah, it's part of the like benefits thing, like being a vet in that state. So every state has their own benefits, and you just have to go look for it.
Right.
It's just like I said, it's so scary because there isn't enough information put out there for soldiers before they get out, or even while their time in, what's out
Yeah.
there for them. Yeah, and I think that is terrifying. SFL tab. Now that I think about it, it hurt my heart. Now that I think
Yeah.
about going through SFL tab, it's like, wow, they never told me this. They never told me
Yeah.
this is how this works. They never told me this exists. Um,
And even
so
something as
it's
simple
scary.
as like you said is like, let's say they say, okay, you're going back to Ohio, New York, Florida, North
Right,
Carolina, Texas, wherever. You could maybe have like a one-on-one counselor say, okay, okay, here is your state that you're going to. This is some of the offers they have.
right,
Take a look into these options, possibly, or
right,
get in contact with your SFL advisor. Let's just say, let's make this a advisor, and your advisor contacts or knows someone in that state, your VSO. Let's say at the capital, like Albany, New York, Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, and say, hey, this person's coming here. Hook them up, see what they can do for you.
right. And you never know. And I think we talked about this before. You veterans, we tend to be very prideful. We don't really like asking for help a lot.
Right.
And it's something that, granted, I guess it can have its pros and its cons, but the biggest cons is you never know who you're talking to down there at the SFL tab. Hey, they might have connections down in Columbus, they might
Yeah.
have connections in South Carolina or wherever you're going that can really set you up. That, hey, if you're getting out and you're uncertain, they're like, you know what, I know a guy here, I know a guy there. Like I said, working at the VA, I made a lot of friends at the VA. One of my biggest friends there, he just recently got transferred to the VA facility down in South Carolina. I can't remember which
Mhm.
one. He just recently got transferred down there. And I had a soldier come to me like, oh yeah, hey, I'm getting out the army here in 6 months, and I'm going to South Carolina, down there in the Myrtle Beach area.
That's
And
the
I'm like,
time to
hey,
start
look, I got a guy down here at the VA. Go see him. Like, here's his number,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. Like, so
And
you
that's the way
never
to it.
know.
That preparation, man, because SFL, or you're getting out, you have, trying to think, like once I got my orders to SFL, I feel like it was like less than a month. Like it was a very quick process of, hey, where are you moving? And we'll catch up with you. Good luck with that.
And
That
that's
was
that's
it.
and that's what it felt like. I think mine was even less than a month. I think I only dealt with SFL TAP for like 2 weeks, maybe. And most of that was
It
just, hey,
wasn't much.
and most of that was just, hey, school, hey, GI Bill, like, and it was just, and like I said, endless. We love how, how the government, they love PowerPoints. endless stream of PowerPoints, and you're just burnt out. So by the time you leave SFL Tap, you're like, I'm just ready to get some sleep. Like it is what it is. If
Yeah,
I'll figure it out when I get out, and that's
exactly.
very scary process. Like
It is.
it's dangerous too, because there are a lot of soldiers that are getting out way before they planned, or so on and so forth, and they have no
Yeah,
what's going on out here. It could, you never know. Maybe the economy's up, maybe the economy's down. There are soldiers that got out during COVID. You have soldiers that got out after COVID, so you never know.
yeah,
And I think SFL Tap, I think that's one of the programs that it. And this is nothing against anybody in the chat who may know somebody working for SFL Tap. Don't go to them and be like, "Hey, veterans hate you guys." We don't. We do appreciate the work they do. We're just saying there's a lot of
be
things
a
that are
little
missed.
more. And from where it was before, like I chat with a lot of older soldiers who never had an SFL or never had an out process
Right? Yeah.
at all. So I mean, it is getting better, but it's still like, especially the way the world is now. Like back, I guess back in the day, I'll say, 60s, 70s, 80s, you would get out, get a job, and the economy was still decent. Where yes, you still had to deal with issues, but it wasn't like now. It's just totally different. The whole world is totally different, and we need to adapt and overcome with that. And as SFL Tap, like you said, whatever branch says, whatever their out processing acronym is, we need to get the financials ready because they never said, hey, okay, yes, they said, okay, you got to think about rent, you got to think about this. Okay, that's common sense. To me, it's common sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have to worry about rent in first month, heat, electric, whatever you have, but they don't actually teach you like, okay, 6, 7 months prior to your outing date, hey, you should be thinking about this. What have you invested? What have you done? Okay, you haven't done anything. Let's think about that. Here
Hmm.
are other options rather than, like you said, GI Bill, um, yeah, go to school, trade school, truck driver school. Like I feel like they pushed truck driver school on me so hard. I was like, no, I'm not going to NTTS. Like I
In
can
fact,
damn near barely walk, let alone climbing in and out of trucks right now. At
correct
that
me if
time,
I'm wrong. Wasn't there outside at Drum? Correct
outside
me.
SFL,
Outside of Clark Hall, there was always a truck there with the big logo on it.
at
If I
least two trailers.
at least two
Yeah,
trailers with the big logo on it.
every time. And then right next door was Burger King now hiring. I'm like, damn,
And
what do
then
I
when
do?
you get inside, you had Border Patrol on the second floor right there.
Border Patrol. As soon as you get up to like, you want to join Border Patrol? I'm like, I can't even walk, dude. Like I use the elevator to get up this motherfucker. Like, no, I am not joining Border Patrol chasing people down. Sorry.
Sir, sir, I am getting out the army by choice for a reason. Please
Right.
give me a minute.
just, just to pump the brakes, man. You
Right.
know? They're like, you
Um,
can go to Mexico, you can go to Texas. I'm like, I'm from New York. Oh, you got Canada? I'm like, no, no.
it's very interesting. It's so I think honestly I think out processing was probably the weirdest. It was more weird than in processing. It was more weird than going into MEPS because it's like,
Yes.
why are you bothering me with this information right now?
Yeah. And
Uh,
90% of it really didn't equate to any, I mean, even the general overall. Like I had one guy and he listens to the podcast, so I won't say his name. Um, Great supporter. He literally said, I'm gonna go spend the next 6 months fishing. Staff sergeant, he said, I'm done with this shit. I bought a boat already. I got my truck. That's my investment. I bought a trailer. It's downstate. Like, I'm going fishing. They're like, well, what are you gonna do when you get out? He's like, I just told you. That's my next 6 month plan. Going fishing and saying fuck the world. Like I'm
but
done.
I think a lot of soldiers they get disgruntled. I want to say
Absolutely.
it's weird because during my whole time out processing, getting ready to like collect my fabled freedom papers. Nobody ever asked. No, there was never an NCO or a leader that ever asked me, "What are you going to do when you get out?" I never had that question asked.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't have that question asked until it was time for me to sign out of Fort Drum to actually leave. That was when I was finally asked by an NCO who honestly I thought hated me. He
Yeah.
finally asked me, he's like, "So where are you going?" And I looked at him like, you're the first NCO or the first person to ask, like, what am I doing? and
Right.
and I think it kind of like dawned on him. He was sitting there, he was like, huh. Really? And I
Damn, I
said,
think
see,
I
this is
just
the
dropped the ball.
realization, you
Yeah,
because a lot of people, they don't think about that. And it's like, hey, when you see soldiers, they're getting ready to get out, even if they're not your soldier, and hey, this person's getting out in the next month. Ask them, hey, man, what you plan on doing when you get out?
yeah.
What's going on? And,
Absolutely.
that
So
might be all
can
it
I help?
takes for a light bulb to go off in their head.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, it's funny. It's crazy. This whole discussion is so true and so important to talk about because, like we said, the education of the finances of your future. I have a good friend who told me if you own a house and you don't have $10,000 saved, which seems like a lot, is very important because nothing in your house typically is going to cost more than $10,000 to fix on the worst day. So if you
Correct.
don't have that
Hmm.
10K, then you should be working towards it, even if it's $50 a month or $100 a month. Put it towards the side because if your roof goes, what if your septic or well goes? You
Hmm.
know,
And if you're in New
there's
York,
those,
you know how it snows very bad. You just never know.
and the ground's weird up here.
Hmm.
I know myself, like we're up in the mountains, which is really nice, but things happen very quickly. Coincidentally, even though we're in the mountains, like we don't have to deal with the actual flooding side of it, but we have the mountain rundown. So we
Right.
get flooding in the basement, and our basement is like old school. So we have like the dirt with the rocks, and it works. But like, what if? Like, there's always those what ifs, and having that security is really important and really key to be able to say, okay, if this happens, I know we have this much, and there's never enough. You can always have more security. You can always have
Never. There's no such thing as not enough security. I
absolutely.
explain that there's no such thing. Cool. I have $30,000 saved up just in case. But now
Yeah.
I don't have to invest for the next 2 years or save up for the next two. Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Make
I mean, what is it going to hurt?
exactly. If you
What's
have an
the
extra,
worst that it could do?
yeah, if you have an extra 200,000-300,000, reinvest that.
Right,
I can
there you
do
go.
that real quick.
Uh,
There's so many
my
markets out there to make.
my biggest advice, like I said, when I got out, finally got my disability rating, and of course there was back pay that came with it. And most people,
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh man, look, you just got like $9,000, $10,000. Like, man, what are you gonna go travel? Blah blah blah." And for a second, I had to take a step back, and I was like, "You know what? No, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna split this up. Okay, half of this, cool. I can take it. I go get a car, do whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
Have fun with that half. But that other half, what am I going to do with it? I just got a lump sum of money. What am I going to do with it? Well, let's invest it. And that's what
Yeah.
I did. I went and I started. It took me. I just kept the money in my account for a month, and I went out here and I did my research. What can I invest in? Okay, this is booming right now, but here in 5 months, it looks like it might go down. This is down, and this might go up. So next thing you know, hey, I ended up investing $3,100 into the stock market. Best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
And you got to ask yourself that when you get lumps of money, what is your first decision? Now, the
Absolutely.
being millennials, our first instinct is okay, let's go spend, spend, spend. But we need to get it into our mind. Like I said, this is a different language we're talking. We need to get into our mind. Cool. Even though I got $8,000, $10,000, so on and so forth, how can I grow this? How can I make this stretch into the future?
Absolutely. So when I went to school, I did really good in school. I focused. I was very strong about it, and I forgot honestly when I first signed up a year and a half ago when I was taking my classes. I signed up for New York State grants, and I'm like, okay, this is great. I didn't take any loans out, but I took grants, and I was like, okay, cool. I do this, I'll be good. So one day, me and the wife are coming home. We parked the car. We run out to the mailbox because we have this weird thing like she has to run out there before I do, but I can't let her beat me. So I'm like kind of gimping out there and trying to chase her. And it's a whole funny thing. And she pulls out this check and she's like, babe, you got a check. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And she's like, no. And she showed me it was about 8 grand to New York State for grants. And she's like, well, what are we going to do with this? And I said, I know exactly what we're going to do with it. And it was literally what you said. We paid off some back bills, caught
Hmm.
that up, build that credit up. Like you said, that credit is very, very important.
Very important. Hmm.
Build that credit up, and then took care of some other bills that we weren't expecting to have or weren't we were able to catch up on other stuff that we didn't think we could have at the time and reinvested that money into another little side endeavor we're doing. So it's like one of those things that yes, and we did the same exact thing, kept it for a month, saw like how things were going and paid this off, did this, did that. And right now for wintertime, Like we have our heating costs because we heat with pellets. So
Okay.
like we have pellets ready to go. Our fridge is stocked. Our freezer is stocked with meats and vegetables. So like all that small stuff when you have a family, that's important. So if our bank account goes to zero, whatever happens, I'm like, hey, I can still eat. The house is still warm, and I have lights on in the house. We're
Right.
good. That's a win to me.
And that's a big win. And I think, like I said, on the topic of school, when it comes to school, like I think we were talking about this before, we're
Yeah,
millennials. We grew up in an age where we were told, "Hey, go to school, graduate high school, go to college. Once you get done with college, you get a nice degree, then you get a job. Hurry up, work that job, have a family, try to buy a house,
yeah,
retire by 65."
yeah.
And we were told that this was the way. This is the ideal, perfect American life. This is the ideal way to live. This is how things should be done. And I think now the problem that um, economics are running into. They're starting to see that, hey, a lot of millennials are waking up. We're starting to see that this old way of thinking isn't working. It's
No.
not this old way of thinking. Hey, let's go into I'm going to go to college and get into debt. 80,
Mhm.
$90,000 into debt for a
Yeah.
degree that I might not even end up retiring from,
Or
and
even working that job.
or even
Or
ever working in that field.
yeah, for
And
30
I think,
grand a year, where we're perpetually just going to keep ourselves going deeper and deeper in debt.
yep,
What do I call it? Where you refi your debt for the student loans,
yeah.
and we do that, and it's yeah,
So
it's
I think I think
crazy.
I think it's in that's why a lot of people I tell people they're like, well, you went to trade school. What was that like? And I tell people all the time, I was like, that's the greatest decision I've ever made. It is the
Absolutely.
greatest. I have yet to ever meet somebody who's ever went to trade school and actually worked in the industry they went into trade and sit here and tell me it was the worst decision they ever made. Me going to trade school, that was the greatest thing I've ever done. And it, like I said, it's something that's not for everybody. It's something that can help everybody, but something I preach to, especially a lot of younger men. Preach to a
Yes.
lot of younger men, like, hey, have at least one trade. I don't care what it is, even if it's plumbing, if it's an electrician, just have one trade. Just
That's
go to
huge.
trade school for 2 months, knock it out, so at least you have one trade. Because you're going to go to college, you're going to get a degree in psychology. Well, everybody has a degree in psychology these days. And it's very
Sociology,
common.
human sort. Yeah.
Sociology, everything, medical billing and coding. So what happens whenever you get your psychology degree, your sociology degree? What happens when you have this degree and, well, guess what? There isn't really a need for it. And now you just wasted, $60,000 in student loan debt for something you're not about to do.
And now you have to go to school again for a secondary to minimize that. Like I went for medical assisting and I had my phlebotomy and EKG, which I can get a job with that, but they're a dime a dozen. They're like
Right.
LPNs or RNs right now. You can get them anywhere pretty much.
Right.
And we're
Um,
doing digital sales and ads. Like, you know what I mean? Who would
and you
not
never
want
know.
to?
And that just comes
Yeah,
back, and it just comes back to the fallback plan. Hey, even though I'm not in this field, yay, I have a degree. Congratulations. Like you did
right.
college. Not many people do it. Yay, balloons. But you're not in that field right now. So now what? Oh, wait, I went to school to be an electrician. There's always there, no matter what, there's always going to be a trade. Trades are always looking. So
Always.
guess what? Now I can go be an electrician, and now it turns out I actually like being an electrician. I like being sapped on my fingers and stuff. So next thing you
Making
know, boom,
30, $40 an hour.
making 30, $40 an hour. And I think that's why it's very beneficial. And I preach to everybody. I'm like, look, get you a trade. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's viable. Because you never know what might happen. You can go to college, maybe you get into college, you start getting into debt, and a year into college, 2 years into college, you're like, it's not really for me. Well, now you just wasted a year and 2 years
Yeah.
just in college,
And now you have that fallback.
and you still have debt possibly. So
Yeah.
now, so you're kind of like stuck in the middle of both worlds. So what happens afterwards? So that's where it's at right now in Ohio. Like I said, this is another thing I love. Right now in Ohio, the average starting pay for a diesel technician in Columbus, Ohio, starts off at $36 an hour, just starting out. So you can go to
Hey,
trade
we're
school
moving
for
to Columbus, Ohio.
so you can literally go to trade school, be done in 3 months, and it's like, hey, here's $36 an hour. Like,
Yeah,
so so you can do with that information what you will,
yeah.
but there
I'm
it
about to do that
is.
right now, right quick, bro. Because like I am like that's the mindset that we're forgetting. I'm just saying 36 times 40, right? Without lunches and stuff like that, you're making 1440 a week times 52. You're making almost $80,000 a year for 3 months of schooling.
For 3 months of schooling. Okay.
I'll give it 3.5, 4 months for the slow speeds.
Right.
Okay. Like,
But then you're going to go to college, you're going to get a degree, and whenever you get out of college, not only are you going to get out of college, you're going to be 80, 70, $80,000 in debt. You might not even start off at that starting salary. Hell,
you're gonna
most of
be
the time
starting really from
most of the time they start you off as an intern just so you can get the experience to move on to that, because we all know the classic memes. Well, you need experience to get this job, but now you need education, or you need this job to get experience.
to get
You
it's
know?
for $19, $18 an hour.
Yeah, it's correct. Like, so wait, I need experience to get this job, but I need this job to get experience. How do I do that? And then that's when they slap you with, well, you could just be an intern. So,
And work for free, and
it
then we're
worked
gonna
for
fire
free,
your ass after
right?
2 weeks. Yeah, exactly, brother. All right, man. We're gonna wrap this up. It's been so much fun. Like I said, I'm loving this conversation. We're definitely gonna have you back on again, man, because
Absolutely.
these are gems that are so important and so huge to teach these kids. And you're one of the mans, man. Like that's awesome. I love it.
Right.
So thank you so much for joining
No
us.
problem. No
It's been
problem.
such a pleasure and such an honor, man.
It's
Truly,
been a
truly.
pleasure
Thank you.
seeing you as well.
Absolutely. All right, brother. As everyone's watching now, as we always say, stay triggered.